Franco. I've mentioned this before, but it is worth repeating. You, who recently turned 17 years old, yeah, what's a birthday present? Are undergoing a process which is known as growing or growing up. Allow me to explain. The process of the process of growing or growing up, simply explained, means that before you were smaller, now you are bigger. Before you were weaker, now you're stronger. Before you were not as smart, now you're smarter. Before you didn't know some things, now you do some things. There is another side, another aspect of this process of growing or growing up. Before you couldn't do certain things, now you can. For instance, before you couldn't or weren't supposed to stay up past a certain bedtime or staying out late, now you can. At one point, one would suppose you're gonna learn to drive a car. Now before you couldn't. I personally found this part the neatest. Growing taller, yeah, that's fine. Growing stronger, yeah, that's okay too. What I really like, because I'm a nerd, what I really liked is not going from not knowing differential calculus to knowing differential calculus, from not knowing vector calculus to knowing vector calculus, from not knowing computing to knowing computing, and then to do 3D modeling and doing finite element analysis, and then doing computerized fluid dynamics. And so that's the part. Now what I want to learn is, I have learned CAD, computer aided design, and what I want to learn now is CNC. And in this aspect, and this is something very personal, I really like being the one who knows the most. I really like being the one who scores the highest. I really like being the one that everybody else asks what to do. And I really like being the one who tells what needs to be done. And I don't say this in a bad way. I say this in a very humble, modest way. Not so much as, oh, look at me, I'm smart, but as, I'm here to help. How can I help? How can I contribute? How can I make this better? I do have a very small, very private, very personal satisfaction. I helped the potable water rural system in the Dominican Republic. I did this. This was my accomplishment, my achievement. I helped fixing the ozone layer problem. Because of freon leaks, because of air conditioning systems. I did this. It was me. I did it. Okay, yeah, it was a very small contribution because there were like 100 other people involved. So my contribution was like 1% of saving the ozone layer. But I did it. Because I'm so good. Because I'm so smart. And because I work hard. And because I achieve things and I get the accomplishments and I achieve the accomplishments. It was me. The Dominican Republic thing was about other 15 or 20, other 10 or 15 people. The ozone layer thing was about another 100 people worldwide. And this is something very personal, very private, and this is something that I keep in my heart of hearts, and I don't go along bragging, but I'm telling you, one goes from being a child that everybody has to take or feed, clothe, bathe, and so forth to being a grown-up where one makes a substantive contribution in some area. And one's goal should be to leave this world in a better way than when one got it. But let's go back to you. I mean, this is getting into a complete different kind of warmth, which is what should be the goals of one's life. I mean, I am all for watching Star Trek. I love Star Trek. I could watch Star Trek all day long and science fiction and reading books. But I am all for having fun. I love dancing. Enjoy life, have fun? Sure, of course. I have nothing against it. But at one point, I would pose that one should do a substantive contribution in some area. In some area. It's not a new idea. My mom once told me, I was 9 years old. My mom told me, I could have a song or I could have a flower pot. A flower pot is pretty. But I had a song, you, me, and my hope, my mom's hope, was that I would make a substantive contribution. That I wouldn't just sit there and be pretty or sit there and eat all day. That I would one day grow up and make a substantive contribution. Mom, I did as I was told, I think. Okay, so enough about me. Let's go back to you. So we've talked about you growing up. We've talked about what should be one's purpose in life, one's purpose in this planet. And we've talked about you growing up. So now let me get you to some specific things. One thing, this is a rhetoric question, which is you are on your way of growing up or becoming a grown up, and my question is, how are you starting to be a grown up? How exactly are you learning to be a grown up? How does that happen? There are many sides. A few are, how do you make decisions? How do you decide what to do? How do you plan for the future? How do you learn to work with yourself to use your strength and balance your weaknesses? We all have. Those we all have. I'm horrible in the morning before lunch. But I learned to balance that. I have learned to cope and to balance and to work with my own quirks and the fact that before noon half my brain is out to lunch. Sadly, the important part, it shows up around lunchtime. Hey, I'm here. What are you? What did I miss? From the time I wake up until about lunch, half my brain is out to lunch. And sadly, the important part. And shows up all fresh and smiling around noonish and says, hey, I'm here. What did I miss? But I've learned to cope with that. And the beauty is that the mood swings that I suffered when I was a teenager, going from exhilaration to the depths of despair, have all but subsided. I do still get excited and then I get depressed, but it's very mild compared to when I was, 18. And the good news is I didn't need medication. The other side of this is, how does the world work? How does the world work? And how do you work within it to achieve your goals? How do you work with people? How do you talk with people? How do you find out what people are thinking? How do you persuade them to do your bidding? It has taken me a lifetime. There are things. What people say is not what they think. This came as a surprise to me. The appearance of people has very little regard to what people really are. My mom, little impish trickster that she was, my very accomplished mom, used to do this trick, which I always thought was a little bit underhanded, that she would show up like a little housemaker. Oh, I only worry about my kitchen. I am really non-important. And then she would make this big Hollywood reveal that my mom was assistant manager of health southern part of Peru, southern region of Peru, and with like 20 medical degrees, college teacher and all that. One very famous time she had been having this technical conversation at a technical meeting, technical medical meeting, with a provider, a seller of technical equipment, and because my mom had very strong opinions against a particular piece of equipment. And finally the guy says, well, you seem to have very strong objections to my piece, the equipment, the machinery I'm selling, the X-ray nuclear medicine machinery. And who are you? My mom says, oh, I'm Dr. Pareja. And the guy opens her eyes wide. You are Dr. Pareja? Oh, the horror. Because my mom was known to be opposed to that particular, I can't remember details, that particular piece of equipment. And this guy knew of my mom's reputation. And suddenly he finds himself at the mercy of my 5 feet 5 inches mom, 140-pound mom. And the guy runs away. The way my mom tells the story, the guy ran away. Oh, help me, somebody help me. One thing that was a complete surprise to me about how the world works is that in a particular institution, private industry, public sector, government, colleges, universities, any institution, the church, I've always thought everybody inside were like clones. It was like a clone patch, that they were all identical. I thought that all people of X group, racial, social, national, were the same. And it came to my surprise that now, within any group, there are so many different shades and flavors and opinions, and some in my favor and some against me. And like, I did have a not so happy experience. Your dad may remember. In Germany, I was a kid, I was a teenager, and I held a grudge against Germans like for years. Until one time, and this was later when I was in college in the US, we were on this group, and one of these kids was German, and I'm going like, I get like a cat. My hair stands on end, my ears fall back, and I'm ready to start hissing. And turns out this kid was completely normal. He was funny, he was making jokes, he was laughing around, and I'm going like, wow, this must be a different kind of German. And that changes completely my opinion. And of course it was my mistake. Just thinking stereotypes and projecting my inner demons onto people of, again, X, Y, J association, which it was dumb on my part, of course. But again, happens to me again and again and again. People of a particular group, they are not the same, they are all different, which is something very important to keep in mind. In the side of being a grown-up and acting as a grown-up, there are so many things. How do you decide what is important? How do you set goals for yourself? When you're a kid, everybody tells you what to do. Your parents tell you what to do. Your godparents tell you what to do. Your teachers tell you what to do. More importantly, people your age tell you what to do, tell you what clothes to wear, what TV shows to watch, and how to think. It is part of our biological, social psychology as a human species that we put a lot of attention on what our peers in our peer group do, and we try to conform. This is something horrible. Doesn't let us. It's difficult to think by oneself because one is always looking at, what are the other people doing? What are the other people saying? What do they say about me? One puts a lot of attention on other people's opinion of one. And that, there are good sides and bad sides about that. The good side of paying attention to other people's opinion is that helps us work harmoniously in a group with other humans. The bad part is that everybody, our friends and our peers, keep telling us what to do. For goodness sakes, I do not like soccer. Stop bothering me, telling me I should watch soccer, I should think soccer is important, I should pay attention to soccer, I should care whether Peru wins or loses at soccer. I do not care. Leave me alone. I've been repeating this for 50 years, and nobody listens. Everybody keeps coming back at me, telling me I should worry about the performance of the Peruvian soccer team. I do not care. Nobody listens. The other side of growing up is you should start thinking what you want. This turns out to be surprisingly more difficult than expected. Working with oneself should be very simple. Step 1, deciding what you want. Step 2, figuring out how to achieve what you want. Step 3, executing the plan in number 2. Easy, right? Well, I've been trying to lose some weight. Stuck. Needle is stuck. The needle isn't moving. The needle in my scale. It's maddening. Just be easy. Eat less, exercise more. It ain't working. But there's other thing about being grown up, which is patience and perseverance, discipline. Patience, sometimes you have to wait. Oh God, I've learned patience. I've been waiting for things 10, 15, 20 years. So I have learned patience. The other thing that turns out to be so incredibly important, there should be a college course in perseverance. Of all the many things I've accomplished of my life, and yes, being incredibly smart like I am helps. Being incredibly educated helps. But being perseverant, working hard is good. The good news, Franco, is that being perseverant and working hard is something that you can just decide to do. This is like flipping a switch. You have control. You can decide to be to be perseverant and working hard or not. And this is completely under your control. Nothing else is. But this is under your control.